the physician and the surgeon can be focused on what he or she does best, and the support center, the support staff can focus on what it is they do best. And when those two come together, the patient is the winner. If you learn from there and you patchwork enough together, you create a partnership between large health systems, large healthcare companies, private practice, specialty care, and startups to create an environment which, again, like we said at the very beginning of our chat, is better for patients, better for patient outcome. Healthcare innovation is just a tad bit behind, and I think we're still working through that. But I think technology that enables patients to find they're easier to use is always a goal. And I think there's tons of innovation there as well. Different devices, different implants, different techniques, different tools. As long as those both travel down the same path, I think the provider can lean into technology advancement, and the user, our practices, can lean into being simpler and easier to use. You're just going to be successful.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of our podcast, Health Tech Innovation 2024-25. I'm your host, Arvind Sareen, CEO and Chairman of Copper Digital, a digital transformation services company with a rich legacy of 13 plus years. Today, we have a distinguished guest with us who has wealth of experience in marketing and healthcare leadership. With over 2 decades of expertise in marketing communications, creative direction, and social networking, he's a seasoned marketing leader specializing in driving demand and growth for businesses in the healthcare sector. As the Chief Marketing Officer at Flagship Specialty Partners, our guest oversees marketing strategy and execution for a partnership dedicated to supporting and empowering surgeons, enabling them to achieve their practice goals and thrive in the modern healthcare market. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished guest, Blair Primis. Blair, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm not sure I've ever had such a robust and enjoyable introduction. That's super flattering. Thank you so much.
Well, wonderful. No, we are so excited, and so is the audience, to have you here and have a great conversation and pick your brain and insights on amazing experience that you have in this sector. So let's get started. I guess, can you briefly outline how Flagship Specialty Partners is revolutionizing the healthcare industry by supporting specialists?
Yes, happy to. So Flagship Specialty Partners is a management services organization that helps specifically oral surgery practices, or in the dental side of healthcare, oral surgery practices, by supporting those physicians that choose to work with us in giving them those wraparound resources they need to be successful. So we focus a lot on allowing the surgeon to be a surgeon, and we take care of the other pieces, HR, IT, marketing, accounting, finance, revenue cycle, and enables them to practice at the top of their license, focus on patient care, patient outcomes, and then we help them with their additional components of that, so it doesn't have to be on their mind as they're doing their work with the patient population. So it's exciting. Yeah, we're coming up on 2 years old. We're based in the Southeast. I'm sitting in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have practices and partnerships that we work with in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina.
Well, wonderful, wonderful. No, that's great. And I love the concept of Flagship Partners because you work with different dentists, different oral surgeons who have their own practice, but then they haven't really gone to school for learning the management skills or people management or, other functions like HR. So you're coming in and really asking them to do what they do best and help the patients and focus on the core of the business in giving that exceptional service. But then you could help them with facilities, with staff, with, other functions within the practice, because it takes a lot to really run a successful practice.
Yes, you nailed it. I think, we work for the physicians. Our company is majority owned by oral surgeons, and we work in their service to help them be as successful as possible. And through that partnership, it allows us to take some of these components of what would otherwise be their daily life, right? I have an HR challenge, I may have an IT challenge, I may have a legal challenge of some kind, I may have a marketing or accounting and finance challenge, and we can remove some of those daily activities, those daily tasks that they are not trained for, They did not go to school for. They did not seek, this isn't what they chose to do. And so really the phrase I like to use is we're able to align the incentives in a very meaningful way. The physician and the surgeon can be focused on what he or she does best, and the support center, the support staff can focus on what it is they do best. And when those two come together, the patient is the winner because the outcome is focused on the things that make their experience as best as it possibly can be.
I love it. I love it. In our industry as well, in digital transformation, when we're designing these solutions, and, we started off as a mobile app company, when we were designing mobile apps as well, what we were taught was always focus on the user. I mean, the end user who's going to be using the application, and that's that user centricity. And of course, in healthcare, in creating these amazing services for the patients, it's got to be patient-centric. I mean, ultimately, patient needs to be empowered because of all the choices that they have. And if the patients win, then everybody else wins. And you mentioned about marketing, and I know your role here as Chief Marketing Officer. Can you tell me, how do you see marketing playing a pivotal role in the success and growth of a healthcare organization or a dentistry, especially in the current landscape?
Yeah. And I think you touched on it a little bit, as you were thinking about the evolution of your company, which is, how do you create an easier existence for the consumer, or in our case, for patients? I think, healthcare, candidly, starts from a place of low expectation. I think in the United States, specifically, nobody...
Why is that, do you think?
Yeah, I think nobody goes to the doctor's office thinking, wow, this is going to be spectacular. I can't wait. This, you might think differently about a restaurant. You have high expectations because I hear the chef is great, the food is great. And when you're let down, you're bummed. I think in healthcare, it's the opposite way. You have low expectations that you're going to be on time, that it will go well. It's just, that's a little bit of the brand of healthcare. A. B, you're hurt or in pain or something is wrong. You're not coming from a place of joy. You're coming from a place of seeking solutions. And so I think where healthcare has been challenged is we haven't fully embraced the idea that simplicity creates ease of use, which is the phrase I like to use, actually creates an easier path for success from the consumer. So saying all of that, how do we create an environment where the marketing and the communications and how we think about going to market for our practices can show the patient that we will be simpler to use for them? And if we have quality care, expert physicians, fantastic outcomes, and we can solve the ease of use part, it's difficult not to win in the patient's eyes. It's difficult not to deliver quality care because you don't want to start from a place of the expectations are low. We have to create a shift where consumerism in healthcare becomes a meaningful thing. It's a lot of buzzwords, a lot of phrases around. We have to empower the consumer in healthcare, and it just hasn't been done in 50, 60 years. It just hasn't been done. We are so much control in so many other ways. I can choose my cell phone. I can choose my clothes. I can choose my car. I can choose so many other things. And in healthcare, we don't have as much of that choice as a perception. The reality is you do. And if we can market and showcase and establish to patients that our practices are easy to use, easy to communicate with, and deliver quality outcomes, we will be successful. Ultimately, that's the challenge. That's the macro landscape, right? You think about things like inflation, and you think about things like, privacy law, and you think about things like, coming out of COVID, a couple of years since COVID, like those are all factors. But I think at the end of the day, the patient that says to you, wow, that experience was really great. That's the goal. The goal is to have fantastic patient experience, and it's high quality clinical outcomes, fantastic patient care, partnered with ease of use in that system. And that's what gives you the winning point. Those are the two key factors.
No, I love it. I love it. And I think, yeah, as you talk about this, I sit back and I'm thinking that, yeah, like in COVID, I don't know if a lot of people went to the dentist, right? I mean, that was something
Sure.
that just became sort of optional. And also including, as you mentioned, in the current landscape of inflation, at times people may cut, some costs, and that might be in this field. And that's why marketing becomes so important, that, the preventative care and ensuring that you're still taking care of, your teeth and gums, I think then marketing can just play such an important role, especially in in this space. No, I love it.
Yeah.
So, Blair, you have a very diverse background in marketing because you've been involved in different industries. How do you feel like marketing in healthcare differs from other sectors? Like, what are some unique challenges and opportunities that it presents?
Yeah. And I touched on it a bit earlier, but I think that the core difference is, I've worked for automotive clients, for consumer packaged goods. I've worked for quick service restaurants. I've worked in financial services. And those are all things that have a choice associated with them, where the consumer can choose to go to McDonald's. They can choose to bank with Bank of America. They can choose to buy an Audi. Those are the three brands I've worked on in the past. And in healthcare, we have to figure out a way to convince and, impress upon patients that choosing us as a provider, in our case, again, for the oral surgery space. So just a clarifying, moment here, right? We've got, the primary care of dental, the dental side would be the dentist, orthodontist. Then they'll send you to or partner with the oral surgeon to solve larger challenges and issues. Wisdom teeth being the most obvious, but then there are other things around jaw, TMJ, full arch replacements for those that need that solution, sleep apnea, facial pain, cosmetic surgery. That's all in the oral maxillofacial surgery landscape. And so the challenge we are trying to overcome is educate and socialize to patients why you need an oral maxillofacial surgeon, why it's ideal for your care. So you're absolutely right that there are some shifts in the landscape from cutting corners and inflation goes up. It's harder to afford things. It's even more important that we're then expressing why we're relevant in their lives and why it's important that they understand what an oral maxillofacial surgeon does and an oral facial surgeon does and an oral facial pain doctor does, and how we can help you in sleep apnea, how we can help you with jaw pain, how you can live a life that you choose to live and be happy and not in pain, right? Pain is typically the number one indicator that something's wrong. And we want to make sure that the rest of it is as easy to use as possible. So I'm wandering a bit here, but ultimately I think consumers think about certain products. And in the past, I've worked on very consumer-facing products, McDonald's, Audi, automobiles, right? Financial services. It's in your face because you're going to choose those things. Healthcare comes about when you don't want to have it happen. It would be great if we could all go through life saying, I lived a very long, healthy life and never went to the doctor once, right? But the reality is that's not how you live a long, healthy life. Like I've even had some little things here, they find some things and they have to scrape it off. And, if I hadn't gone to the doctor, I wouldn't have known I had that problem, wouldn't have known how to get it scraped off. And so the preventative care, making ourselves easy to use, making ourselves relevant is really critical for healthcare. And I think it's the key difference in some of the other products and services I've been involved in the past.
Love it. And I think, thank you for explaining the kinds of organizations you're helping, because, discovering new patients and bringing that traffic to your facility is important. And I feel like in our previous conversations, we've discussed how even that is changing tremendously, because you can't just rely on the dentist sending you, those specialized treatments. You can't just rely on referrals. I think if you have also a good marketing arm that is continuing to spread the word and you stay top of mind, then even when they go to the dentist, they know that they have a choice and they could be like, oh, I'm familiar with this facility in this area and I would like to go there. Or, once they have a good experience, then they could always refer other patients, even though they may go to the dentist first, but, there's more traffic ultimately in the long run that would come to that oral surgeon.
Yes, exactly. And I think really the key there is, it's the validation for the patient that when they are referred from the dentist, that the dentist is sending to a place they feel comfortable with, that they understand. And so there's a really good reason to build a brand around our practices and the work that our surgeons do. Even if we don't get it directly from the consumer, the vast majority of our patients are referred, and we want to support that referral community in a strategic and powerful way. We want to make sure that we have good relationships and that we're taking care of their patients in the best way possible. And a way to do that is to create a brand that in the patient's eyes, they have validation for. So when a patient is referred from an orthodontist, endodontist, when they are referred from the dentist into our practice, they feel validated by the choice because they're familiar with that brand, which now supports both the referral community, which again, we are thrilled to have so many wonderful referral partners, but the consumer side of it is bigger than just come to us directly. It's really more about how we support that referral community by validating the choices that those providers are making in partnering with us as a oral surgery partner. Sure, we can grow. There are some direct to consumer, or what I call first choice options for patients in the oral surgery space. Cosmetics is one of them. Complicated, jaw and mouth solutions and treatments for patients oftentimes could come directly to us, or we can be a first choice for patients. But the vast majority of them are referred, and the goal is to not replace those referrals. It's to enhance, it's to build upon.
And we'll do that by giving the best-in-class service, by taking care of them, by making it easy for them, because they expect that similar experience like Instagram and Facebook. It's so easy, and you get your appointment, you get a text, you get a mobile application where you know where you are in the process. You get some notes on aftercare. Sky's the limit. The way that you can create that 7-star experience and just really wow them, can be the recipe where you're right. It's not really changing the way that the patients discover us. It could still be a huge chunk or majority of them coming from referrals, but if you just take care of them by using technology, by giving them access later on as well, using mobile apps or using other interfaces that are at par with the Amazons and the Instagrams of the world, then
that's the goal.
I think that does the trick. Yeah.
That's the goal. If you think about it, right, the simplest way to describe it is probably, when the patient goes back to the dentist for their 6-month, 9-month, 12-month in the process of their checkups, they say, hey, how did the surgery go at one of our practices? The validation is the patient says, oh my God, they were terrific. It was so easy to use. The outcomes were great. Then the dentist gets their patient in a place that they are now providing the best care to, because the skill set that is required for the oral surgery side is the ideal partner for dentists or orthodontists, so that they can say, well, I am treating the whole patient by giving you the services and the recommendations of the oral surgeon who are best in class. So they send them to our practices, we take care of them. And then when you go for your preventative care, your routine maintenance at the dentist, they're thrilled when they hear how great the experience was. It's the ideal partnership. So yeah, I think you said it very, very well. And that's sort of the thread, right? That's the piece we want to continue to hone in on. It's how do we have world-class referral marketing partnered with developing best-in-class brands in all of the markets in which our surgeons live and work.
Love it. Love it. So I guess, then technology, of course, plays an important role, not just in marketing, but making it very easy for the patient and the way the experience is elevated. And now everybody talks about AI, some are scared AI is going to take all of our jobs, but it's obviously having a huge impact in a lot of different industries. What do you think within healthcare or in your space specifically? How do you see AI being utilized within Flagship or broader healthcare industry? And what potential benefits and challenges does it bring to your space?
Yeah, it's great. It's AI. It's such an interesting conversation, right? Because, we are probably, without knowing it, using some form of AI right now on this podcast, right? There's something going on in the background, right? And so AI is gotten an elevated level of conversation, even though it's been around for a very long period of time, right? It's this generative AI as of late that, can the fear is it becomes self-aware, right? It's the old Terminator. Godson, but Skynet, right? But at the end of the day, Google Maps, right, is AI, and we've been using Google Maps for a long period of time. And what's interesting about healthcare in general is it typically lags behind from a technology standpoint the rest of consumer use patterns. There's privacy and there's safety and there's rules and laws to protect patients that sometimes inhibit the rapid expansion of technology. But at the end of the day, I think AI can be a wonderful benefit for operational enhancements. We use it today in our practice and for our practices to help our team learn how to handle phone calls better from patients. We can use it to help decipher themes from those calls. When the patient calls in, we can hear the terms and phrases they're using. AI can listen to it. We work with a partner here in North Carolina that helps us do that. And then we can use those scripts as training for our staff to say, here are the words, terms, phrases that resonate better with patient experience than those that don't. We can understand why they came to us. Did it come from an ad? Were you referred? Did you click on something? We can learn all of that with AI. And then there's clearly things like tactical uses of AI, which is copywriting, review generation, helping us think through how to start something. I think AI is a wonderful starting, let's throw some questions into Google, into Bard or ChatGPT and think about how this works. And all of a sudden, some ideas pop out. Then our team takes it and we go make magic out of it. I don't know that the AI is the magic. I think the AI is the kickstart, and then we take it to market. But it's interesting that it is heightened as of late because it can, write your kid's school paper. It can, create an ad campaign without you having to do a lot. And I think that's the self-awareness piece. That's the future state that people lean into. I look back as somebody older and I say to myself, it's been around for a while. I mean, I've been using Google Maps a long time. There's some AI in there. It's projecting I shouldn't take the interstate because there's an accident up there. We should take an alternate route. That is its thinking about how this works. Artificial intelligence is doing that work. So I think it's thrilling. It's exciting. It'll be interesting to see how it impacts patient care. I think there's a lot still to be determined there, but it is an exciting future, and I look forward to it. I embrace it. I'm bullish on how it can help and add value.
I love it. I think the examples that you gave were really amazing, and I like how you were able to describe where practically you are already using it. And especially in marketing as well. I think to generate those ideas, of course, Gen AI is the king right now, and even we are doing a very interesting product launch in Gen AI where you just speak or you just type some idea and it gives you a video based on that idea. So the entire video, not just, a picture or not some text, but an entire video that has multiple shots. And that's actually, live. It's called Realcraft.ai. And, it's something that we've been working on for the past few months. But yeah,
that's incredible.
I just find it unbelievable. And I just think that the next few years, it's going to have so many, things that we couldn't imagine ever. Like when you think of the personalized care, I think one important thing that I'm really, really looking forward to is how can we have access to therapy for everybody using AI? I mean, that's something that I'm really looking forward to. And there are some tools that are already there, but they don't go all the way. But I mean, that would be for me something to look forward to in the healthcare space. And I think, in your space as well, specifically, I feel like that personalized care or, a lot of the instruments that may be used definitely use AI. And I think the advancements in the last few years have been humongous. So I think it plays an important role. But do you think eventually the oral surgery could be performed by these robotic arms or we're long way to go from there? I mean, it's just
probably a long way to go there. I think the
oral surgeons are not going to lose their jobs.
I don't think so. I think the marketing departments are probably more nervous than the oral surgeons are about being replaced. I agree with a lot of what you said, and I think even your description of the Recraft .ai that you described, right, is how people should be thinking about it. Right? How can it add value to something that already exists, as opposed to it's going to replace a thing that exists today? And I think in our world specifically, again, for the healthcare landscape, and specifically even deeper for an oral surgery practice or a group like ours that supports and works with physicians across multiple states and multiple practices, how do we think about a regional approach to say, here's something we've learned in a specific market, and if AI or technology can help us be really great at it, we can then replicate that across all of the other markets and all the other locations where we have providers and specialists that we support and we help be successful. And so what's exciting to me about it is it helps you get to scale quicker as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't replace the work that has to be done. It just may help us get to scale quicker.
And do it more efficiently, like you said earlier, right? The process efficiency, can be huge as well. Because, AI is like, you just need to train. And if you can have some sort of a closed feedback loop where you're like, okay, well, how did this go? And then you feed it back, and then you look for those elements that actually helped, get some successful outcomes. Then you could. We have a customer right now, OnStar. They are into providing, so they're into providing services for HVAC, and they have a lot of technicians that they hire, and there's demand that comes and goes. But we created a demand forecast system for them, a dashboard, where they know how many calls are they going to get based on historic data and the weather data.
Sure.
So it just gives them, the demand, and they can be prepared like that. And I think at times
analytics is critical. Right.
Absolutely. And I think for scheduling and all that as well can be important, used. And so we'll see.
I think you're right.
What AI
One area that I'd add where it could really be beneficial, right, is we all have to navigate the insurance landscape. And I can tell you in oral surgery, it is doubly complicated because we deal with both dental and medical insurance. And imagine if there was some generative AI and or some partner, a digital partner, that could help the patient and companies navigate that very complex space. Is some of it's dental, then medical kicks in. Sometimes the medical is not approved because the dental wasn't done. Like there's all these nuances inside that space, and there's an ideal spot for a company to come in and say, let us help you navigate this in a really meaningful way. And if the AI can learn those patterns, it can predict based on the cases that are being done where you might have a problem, and then be able to give you a solution ahead of time. Like that's exciting. Like that would be a really interesting way to say, here's the whole of the industry. How do we find a space where the innovation can fill the crack? And that then becomes the standard. Like that's the ultimate benefit of innovation and startup, is it gives you the idea to solve problems that the macro landscape is having trouble solving.
Wonderful. And you talk about startups and innovation. I think I have a question on that I've thought of.
Yeah.
Like in your various leadership roles, what do you think startups and innovative companies have played as a role? Like what role do you think startups and innovative companies play in shaping the future of healthcare technology?
Yeah, that's great. I think, there's really two specific things I would say there. One is, I think they're a necessary part of the healthcare landscape and ecosystem. We need startups and innovative thinkers who are skeptical, and I mean that in a positive way, of the current healthcare environment. Be skeptical and figure out ways to change it. And so I think the first one is it's a necessary component to make large scale changes in the future. The second thing I think is important about it is it allows you to be niche and focus in a very specific area as opposed to the macro healthcare system we have to manage today. And so the innovation at startup community is a critical component in the beginning, as my first point, because it forces you to then think differently about the second, which is they're going to go deep and really be niche. And if you learn from there and you patchwork enough together, you can create a partnership between large health systems, large healthcare companies, private practice, specialty care, and startups to create an environment, which again, like we said at the very beginning of our chat, is better for patient outcome. And so to challenge the system, to be skeptical of how it is today, I think it's a key ingredient for innovation in startups. It's a little bit of what we do at Flagship. We think about ourselves as a startup and as a way to align incentives differently for patients by taking our management services approach to enhance provider success, enhance physician success. And ultimately what that does is that makes the patient have a better outcome. And that's our version of, being an innovator in this niche way. We are in the oral surgery environment, managing patients, helping to manage the patient expectation. And we do that by removing some of the obstacles that physicians typically have to face every day. While on the surface it doesn't sound super technology savvy, some of the things you're working on, right, have much more of that technology component, but it is innovative and disruptive in how we think about it. And maybe that's the key. That's the space that we think separates Flagship from some of the other options that are out there in the market, because we think about it differently. The people we have are aligned and thinking differently, and we're actively working to play that innovative startup role. Why can't we do that? Why not try that? Why can't we have it this way? We believe, candidly, to go a little bit deeper, that as a partnership model, we don't roll out a corporate plan in any way. We hear and work with practices in how they want to be worked with. We just provide them the support to make what they're doing better. We don't replace it with anything because we feel like it's a better way to go. Sure, we standardize, and sure, we can give recommendations, and sure, we can enhance what they're doing, which might mean they have to change something slightly, but we don't force any sort of change. And again, that nuance, I think, is pretty specific to us. And so to your point about startups and innovation, we consider ourselves a startup. We think innovatively in how we go about doing it day to day.
And
it's exciting. As you can tell, I get excited talking about it. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. No, and it is exciting. And I think for you as an organization, being 2 years old, is definitely more nimble and agile. And, obviously, I feel like also it's the mindset, because, we've been around 13 years, but we're still a startup. I mean, when I introduce myself, I say, and I'm very passionate about my technology startup. And even though I've been around and we worked with some very large customers, and but it's the way we think. It's really not having that hierarchy. It's really being able to act fast. Otherwise larger companies, again, they have an important role to play, but at times they have a lot more to lose by trying new things, because they are set in their own way and they know this works and this is 80% of the revenue. You can't just suddenly change that because
agreed.
There could be big losses for the shareholders. So I think they have their fiduciary to continue to run a certain way. But I also feel that the larger companies can help fuel that innovation in startups, because a company can be successful if they can source innovation from a lot of different pockets, and these smaller companies that can take on exorbitant risks, and like you described, they can challenge the norm, are definitely an important part of the ecosystem. And that's why America is so great. That's why Silicon Valley is so great, because we support startups, because failure is not frowned upon, and it's only a stepping stone to learning something and doing it better. So I think it definitely plays a very important role in healthcare.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think you said it really, really well. And you actually described, Candy, a little bit of almost exactly, candidly, how we talk about our partnership with physicians. These practices existed before Flagship ever showed up. They've been in business 35, 40 years. They've done this for decades. We're just going to try to come in and actually make it a little bit better for them by removing the things that they don't want to necessarily have to work on day to day, so they can focus on what they went to school for, what they were trained in, what they're passionate about, what they want to be doing. And that's the novel component of it. 80% of the business is established and is going to run exactly how it was. How do we just shine up the other 20% to make them just a tad bit more successful tomorrow than they were yesterday? And I think it only can help patients. It only can help the partners that we select us as their partner, I should say. It can only help them to improve that patient care. So I agree with you, and I think you said it. You're right on the money.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, great. So I guess let's talk about some inspiring stories. Can you share some examples of how healthcare technology has made a positive impact on patient care and outcomes?
Absolutely. So I think that there's a couple types of technology in our space, right? There is the user side, which is online scheduling, online chat, texting, and again, which in the grand scheme of innovation, healthcare innovation is just a tad bit behind, and I think we're still working through that. But I think technology that enables patients to find they're easier to use is always a goal. And then there's the actual technology that happens in the OR and that happens in the office environment. And I think there's tons of innovation there as well. Different devices, different implants, different techniques, different tools. As long as those both travel down the same path, I think the provider can lean into technology advancement, and the user, our practices can lean into being simpler and easier to use. You're just going to be successful. And so the stories around patients that found us easy to use and easy to work through, combined with just unbelievable outcomes, cleft lip repair, fixing a jaw that was offset, allowing somebody to sing and, play an instrument again, allowing them to not be in pain, allowing them to feel like, they are getting back to the life they always wanted or used to have. Those are the stories that just excel. And
those are great examples.
And I think whether it's, at the end of the day, it's how patients choose us because they're in pain. They're referred to us because they have a condition or a challenge of some kind. And if the treatment option, which is going to be their ultimate solution, is met with, again, I'm a broken record here, but easy ways to schedule, easy ways to talk to us on the phone, easy ways to find our locations and offices, easy ways to access information. We're just setting ourselves up to be really successful for the patient and really successful for our practices. It'll be this relationship. I use the phrase, it's a really symbiotic relationship between the referring provider, the specialist, which is us, and the patient. They're all in it together. And sometimes it's not thought of that way. And we need to begin to think that way and make it a constant. So the stories of success, I think, are those that get their life back. They feel like they've got a second act, which is terrific.
Yeah. And I think those stories really help us continue to come every day to the office and, get out of the bed and, have a purpose-driven job. Because, even in my personal story, like I feel like I really got lucky the way I got an opportunity to come from Delhi to the United States. So I'm an Indian-born American, and the kinds of opportunities that I got here, and then having achieved the financial independence. I think then I decided, okay, well, what do I really wanted to do? And it's really that purpose, that you find. And I feel like when we highlight the impact that it has on other lives, like you described, how somebody was able to not be in pain or live a better life. I think marketing's role to highlight those stories and also feel good, across the community by knowing that our job, enables a lot of people to live the life that they want. I think that's extremely, powerful. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. We have patients who are probably sitting right now, a few days before a big holiday and are probably really nervous to go and have dinner with their family because they don't like how their teeth look, or they are embarrassed, or they have trouble eating. And imagine knowing that and the anxiety that those patients have, those folks have leading up to that event, to celebrate a Christmas dinner or a holiday dinner around the table. That's probably bothering them for days and weeks leading up to that event. Family is coming to town. You're going to be around those holiday parties, celebrating things. And that is the anxiety they deal with every day, all the time. Just simply removing that, giving them a better smile, removing pain, improving their life. Like, to us, it seems relatively minimal. To them, it is a life changer. It
It is
just
truly
fully shifts
life-changing.
their life. It's incredible.
You know,
It's really
even
just
I
incredible.
was growing up, and back then, especially where I grew up, orthodontists were not very common. Like nobody knew very much about braces, and in fact, there was misinformation that they're gonna make your teeth weak. And as a child growing up, I felt so embarrassed, and I didn't want to laugh, and I didn't want to be sometimes in those groups. And once I got my braces and once the braces came off, it changed my life. It gave me the confidence. I feel like I still remember it's a doctor who actually studied in the US and came and ran his practice in central Delhi, Pradeep Jaina. And, I remember my dad took me there and, he charged me only $80, but that was a lot at that time. And, did the treatment. It was really, really
There you go.
amazing, life-changing.
That's a great story. Great story. And validates what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. So, Blair, you're also a mentor and coach. How do you see leadership evolving in healthcare? And what advice, I think, as we wrap this podcast, what advice do you have for emerging leaders navigating the industry challenges, especially in the healthcare sector? Like what resources or how should they go about equipping themselves for the future opportunities and to be, the best leaders?
Yeah, that's great. I like to think about leadership as teaching and guiding. If a leader can teach and guide and help navigate teammates, partners, colleagues, then you're a leader. Leadership is about applying social influence. It is about how to influence somebody in a way to augment, adjust, change, shift behavior. And it's not complicated. It comes in many flavors and many forms, but I feel like good leaders, good coaches, good mentors will then help teach and guide somebody to say, here's maybe a way to think about it, or here's a question I might ask, or here's an insight I can offer. But the individual that you are working with, partnering with, your teammates, your employees, your staff, you want them to bring their expertise to you. You want them to bring their creative thinking to you, their problem solving. You want them to have novel ideas. You want them to feel empowered to share their thoughts. And I think if the leader understands that you have to pull levers to different levels, a phrase I like to use a lot is that I think leadership is a game of chess and not a game of checkers. Chess pieces go in all different shapes and sizes. That's just like your team, right? Some can move diagonal, some can move one spot, some can move multiple spots, some have to go left to right. Like that's just like a team. They're all different. So there shouldn't be one model you apply universally to everyone on your staff, everyone on your team, every partner you have. You've got to modulate the type of approach you make because the individual is different. And so if you can apply influence in different ways to teams, to partners, you will ultimately find a terrific success as a leader because you will listen, you will understand, you will modulate. It's not one way and do it this way. There are processes and suggestions you can give them that might make it standardized. However, you have to kind of embrace the individual. And I think good leaders understand that and know it and are willing to listen and learn from their teams as well.
Great advice.
That applies beyond healthcare, right? That could apply to your family, right? That could apply to your neighborhood. I mean, that's a little bit of a life lesson beyond just, a marketing department or a business team.
No, but that's very helpful. I think a lot of people can benefit from that. Influence is important, modulating is important, listening is important, empowering other people with decision-making is extremely important. But thank you so much, Blair. This has been a wonderful
pleasure.
I really want to thank you for your time. And I enjoyed it. And thank you for sharing your amazing insights and your industry expertise and your experience, especially in this unique field and in the marketing space. And thank you. I learned a lot myself. I'm sure our audience is going to find it super helpful as well. Thank you again, and looking forward to having many more conversations with you in the coming months and years.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation. I love the kind of open dialogue and us, thinking creatively about how we navigate the space. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for the time.